Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am stuck in the middle with you. Sorry, guys, I cannot sing worth anything, but this shirt gets the point across. I've been trying to make it on this channel for some time now. Doesn't matter from the right or the left, they're both pretty much pathetic and useless as far as supporting the Constitution goes, and as far as doing anything constructive or meaningful. When it comes to war, when it comes to big pharma, they all support the agenda. So, clowns to the left, jokers to the right. If you like the shirt, check on the affiliate link in the description box below. I stopped at Walmart today, and I don't stop there very often, but I needed to go in there for a couple of things I can't get anywhere else around here, so I went in at Walmart. But when I first pulled into the parking lot, there was a girl walking across, and she was morbidly obese. She had a little backpack on, had like a rainbow in the backpack, and her hair was green and blue and orange painted. And I'm like, definitely trying to get attention. And that got me thinking back to when I was growing up in this area. And I was thinking about how things were then and how things are now, and how much, things has changed. You can just go to somewhere like Walmart and park in the parking lot and just sit there for 10 minutes and just look at people, and you can see how much things has changed from, say, the 1980s, 1990s, over the last few decades, how much things has changed. If you look at the kids now, used to be when I was growing up, we were outside all the time. When it was summertime, we were outside all the time, most of the time barefoot. Climbing trees, building tree houses, riding bikes. We'd make these ramps. We'd get like concrete blocks and stack them on top of each other and find lumber to put on that block to make ramps so we could jump. And we were skint up, we were cut up, we were crashed up. But we had a great time, and that anymore, that just doesn't happen. Kids are all the time in the house, on the computer, on video games, on their tablets, on their phones, and they're completely separated from reality and nature, it seems. And that's one reason that kids are so overweight anymore. A lot of them are because they don't go out and play, they don't get out and do anything. And we see, just the morals has changed. Everything has changed. Even here where I am, it's changed so much. It's like night and day. And you can't see it as much if you just look at it from day to day. But if you look at how things were, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and look at how things are now in your community, you can see a huge difference. For example, in these rural communities during hunting season, especially deer season, every morning you would see people have their orange vest on going deer hunting, and you'd often see that deer that had been harvested across the hood of the vehicle, across the bed of the vehicle, with the tailgate out or open, and it was a common sight. There's a store that's still in operation not far from where I am here. It was always a store, a gas station, a deer checking station, a rural post office. Actually, it served several functions and still does. But during the time when I was growing up, people would bring their deers in and their turkeys in to check that in, because you have to put the tag on and check that in so the government knows how many was taken, where at, and things like that, and who got that deer. But anyway, they would take those photographs with a Polaroid camera, and they would post those on the bulletin board where everyone coming in could see, who got this, how many points it was. And same thing with the newspaper. The local newspaper would they would take the photographs, they would post those in the newspaper, and it would tell how many points it was, who took that. It would usually show the rifle they used, how many yards that it was. It was a big deal, but now you never see it anymore. You don't see nothing like that because it might offend someone. Someone might get offended by someone actually harvesting wild game. And used to be here, and I'm sure it's the same way in most other rural communities, if not all rural communities. It seems like it's the same agenda being pushed no matter where you are, and the same progression into patheticness. Used to be you would see gardens, and it's about every yard. Now you see a few. I've seen a few more this year than I did in the last previous years, but still yet, the number of home gardens is still very small compared to what it used to be when I was growing up. It used to be everyone raised a huge garden, or just about everyone raised a huge garden. They had chickens in the yard and things like that, and now you don't see none of that. Very, very little anyway. And there used to be a lot fewer people, it seems now. Here where I am, we've had so many people move in. You can look at the tags on the vehicles and they show what state people comes from. I've been paying attention, and a lot of the tags are from out of state. People moving here from Florida, Georgia, Michigan, lots of different places. People are moving here, and I'm sure some of these people are good people and want to support themselves, and that's fine, but I'm sure that some of them aren't. And unfortunately, we've had more homeless people here. There's been several people that I've noticed that have been living in the woods and tents and things around here over the last few years. And they usually come from somewhere else and come here and live in a tent somewhere, live in a car somewhere. Not sure why they want to come from, Virginia somewhere down to here and live in a tent in the woods, unless they're running from something. I'm sure not everyone, but I'm sure some are. In fact, I know some are because there have been some caught here where I used to live at. The guy, he moved down here with his wife. I guess it was his wife, and had 2 kids, 2 boys. And he moved across the road from where I used to live at about 9 or 10 years ago, I guess it was. And he was down there he came from Virginia. I think it's West Virginia. And they lived there for a couple of years. And the cops was there several different times because they were doing things, fighting and things, and people would call the law and stuff like that, and they would come and talk to them and they would leave. Well, he ended up getting busted in the local Save-A-Lot parking lot, and he had methamphetamine. And they started doing his background check when they arrested him, which he should have done that a long time ago. And he was a registered sex offender from West Virginia, come down here to hide out. And he'd been living here for a couple of years, and the cops had been to their house several times, hadn't checked him out, hadn't found out anything. So he's living right across the road from me where I lived at, and was hiding out, what it boiled down to. The guy up the road from where I lived at, he was selling drugs. So these rural communities aren't the paradise that a lot of people think that they are. They have some advantages, but those advantages are getting more, and those advantages are getting less and less and more small by the day, it seems. Lots of things, like I said at the start of the video, has changed. I really had no purpose of this video when I first started making this video, just to talk about whatever hit my mind. That's what I'm doing right now. And this change that we're seeing, in a few decades, has been just night and day. When I was growing up, and I was a teenager, and growing up, and I was, a preteen, like I said, I was out in the woods all the time, climbing trees, building tree houses. We would have what we called rock fights, where we would throw rocks at each other in school. I mean, and the teachers would let it happen in school. And we'd have different groups of boys. We'd throw rocks at each other, rock fights, and it was a mess sometimes. And the teachers finally put a stop to it. But I remember what put a stop to this is someone usually just throwing small rocks. And for some reason, one of the kids, he picked up a big rock. And the other boy was down the hill on the playground, and he was trying to hide. And the other one took a big rock and hit him right on top of the head and gashed him open. And they've had to put a stop to this rock fighting. We was just doing it for a few days there and using the small rocks, but then and the teachers see it, but they didn't do anything about it. But then that one boy got hurt, got his head gashed open, they put a stop to that. But we would go to school and we'd take pocket knives to school. No one said anything. I'd actually show, my pocket knives to the teachers and things like that, because the teacher I had at the time, he liked pocket knives. Nothing was said whatsoever. And, in the high schools and things, people would carry guns and stuff especially during hunting season, in the back of their trucks. and in the rack in the back of the truck. And you can see the gun there, and park in the parking lot. And then after school was out, they would actually, a lot of the boys and some of the girls would take and go straight to deer hunting and turkey hunting and things like that. Common. You don't see it anymore. If you bring a gun to school now in the back of the truck, you'll be in jail. That's just the way things work nowadays. So many things has changed. It's crazy how things has changed. And it's not been for the better, it's been for the worst, in my opinion, for the most part. When I was a teenager, I was in the prepping, survival, and things like that. Mostly outdoor wilderness survival, and then I went into reading books by Ragnar Benson from Paladin Press, my old publisher actually now, and Kurt Saxon. And I really liked a lot of Kurt Saxon's books and The Poor Man's James Bond. And I would put together some of the formulas in The Poor Man's James Bond. And I kept the neighbors, on edge, because, people be sitting watching television and maybe asleep or something like that. And all of a sudden, boom! It would sound like the earth was shaking, because I was doing some things and making some things that would make the earth shake. And I remember one of my neighbors at the time he lived up the hill, and for some reason a doghouse, pieces of a doghouse, came flying over top of his house, and it was funny. Now, if you did things like that, you'd be under the jailhouse. But things was different back then. So many things has changed, man, I tell you. I would get up in the mornings when I was about 15, 16 years old, and I loved to squirrel hunt. And before school, I would get up, and I would go to the woods behind our house and squirrel hunt just about every morning. So I got home in the evenings, I would be squirrel hunting. I love squirrel hunting for some reason. It just was my passion. I still like doing it, but not as much as I used to. And I would do that just about every day with squirrel hunt. And I'd bring those back, and we would eat those. But my dad, for some reason, he wanted to boil the head whole, skin it out first and then boil the head. And he would crack the skull open and eat the squirrel brains. I never liked that. I actually tried that myself when I was a kid, but I didn't like it a bit. But my dad, he always liked eating the squirrel brains. And they would boil that squirrel head, and he would crack it open with a spoon and dipped it out and eat that squirrel brain. It was like white looking, I remember. I never liked that part of the squirrel, but other parts is fine, but just not the brains. Something about the brains I didn't like. Just the thoughts of it, I guess. But I'm rambling this video. I'm sure some will flip off of this video and click off of this, because it's just me sitting here. It's been thinking today, and you see so many things, so many videos in the prepping space of people coming on here and bringing bad news constantly. This is sort of bad news, but it's about life and about the way things has changed. But you hear so much news and things, I decided to go ahead and just come on here today, make a video, and just start talking about whatever crossed my mind. And I had a general idea of talking about, how things has changed. And it's the kids, people today, children aren't taught any skills. They don't know how to do anything, and that carries over to adulthood. I mean, it's amazing how many adult males can't change their own tire. They have a flat. They have to call someone to come and change the tire, a specialist to change their tire. They can't change their own oil, their own air filters and things like that. They can't do anything manly at all, besides be on their phone, play video games and things like that anymore. And that's supposed to be the men we have now. Can't do anything. They can't hunt. They can't fish. They can't change their own oil in their vehicle, like I said. Have a flat tire, got to call the man. Completely useless, in my opinion. Most men are. And can't do anything, no skills whatsoever. They're not taught anything. And having skills like that, useful skills, is actually looked down upon now, it seems. People don't want to know how to do anything. They don't want to have any skills to be able to work on their own things and do their own things. They want to call the man to come and do it. And when I was growing up, people would be out in their yard and they would be replacing engines in their cars. They would have that engine hanging up to a tree limb that came across, have to come along to jack that thing out of there and pull that engine out and set a new engine in. They would do their own transmissions and things like that. I mean, full, complete manliness on display. Now you don't see any of that at all. Granted, the car is now more difficult to work on because of all electronics and things, but like I said, most men, supposed men, can't even change their own oil. Can't change their own oil filter. Can't change their own tires if one goes flat. I mean, they're completely, oh my God, what am I going to do? I got to call the band to come and change my tire. It's pathetic. It really is. I saw a guy at Walmart, again, this has been about 2 months ago. And the sad thing about it is he was about my age, actually. And he was a little guy, about 5'6", probably about 115 pounds. But he had the hair again, the blue and the green and the orange hair. And him his age. And he also had on pajama bottoms. And the pajama bottoms was colored like rainbows. So I figure that he is probably trying to promote the rainbow, the rainbow agenda. It's sad that a certain portion of the population has took something as beautiful as an actual rainbow and perverted that. It seems like that everything that is good, healthy, someone has tried to take and turn that around to the opposite. Make it not good, not healthy, and pretty much pervert anything that God has made, it seems. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble now. I've been rambling this whole video, but I decided to go ahead and just say whatever comes to my mind, and here it is. MD Creekmore's mind, fully on display. If you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs up also. It's still appreciated. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. What do you see is changing your community? Do you see a big change, or is it still the same as it was 20, 30 years ago? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Creekmore out of here. I'll see you all in the next video, hopefully.